Happy New Year's, everyone. New Year's Eve, I should say. Hey, this is a great time. So thank you so much for joining me on this Adventure Box podcast. If it's on New Year's when this releases, or sorry, New Year's Eve when this releases, or if it's the next week, 2 weeks from now, whenever. Happy New Year's. So this is actually, New Year's is tomorrow. New Year's Eve is today. So I have some great plans for my kids. We're actually going to do fireworks. We have a snack bar that they're actually going to be making all the treats for it. We're going to be going out and doing playing a few screen games as a family, Minecraft. And then we're going to also play things like board games. We just got a new game called Camel Up. Highly recommend it. This is a great family game, up to I think 8 players. So it's a great game for a lot of people. It is there is a little bit of like gambling or such, but maybe you can talk about around it. That's why what we say. It's not gambling. It's not taking risks. It's more of just trying to strategically plan on and guess, take risk on who's going to be the first camel to cross the finish line. So it's great fun. Also, we have other things that we're going to be doing, including talking about the new year. And we're going to be talking about some goals that we're going to set as individuals and as a family. And every year we do these goals. When the kids hit them, we go celebrate. So we're going to go to a Chinese buffet sometime in the near future about the goals that they set. This time we're going to actually write them down because we wrote them down, I think it was probably on our phones, and we lost them. So this time we're going to actually write them down so people can actually see them all throughout the year. Okay. Because that, again, I talked about it last week. If you want to hit your goals, you need to write them down so you can see them. So somewhere that's prominent. And then set a schedule to make sure that you're going to actually reach that goal. And that you might make a mistake. You might not do something one day, but then jump right back into it. You might even miss it for a week, then jump back into it. Again, you have to do it for 42 days in order for it to become a routine. So, with that being said, let's go into what we actually are talking about today, ancient Israel. Now, we've actually been going a little bit slow, so I'm going to have to speed this up. I'm going to go through the 3 kings of ancient Israel, the great kings of ancient Israel. Now, some people would actually say that there is no record of King Saul, King David, and King Solomon. But, actually, there now is. Because just recently, in the last few years, they actually found documents saying the House of David. Now, in order to have a House of David, you actually have to have a David. It also says King David, or David's reign, which actually points back to there was a King David. David's reign being a ruler, a leader, King David, around the same time that all these things were happening. So when people say, oh, you can't prove that's true, that's so true. There are a lot of things in history you can't prove to be true. A lot of it is assumptions. We've gone over this so many times. When a new conqueror comes in, a new leader comes in, they destroy the documents, they rewrite history to gain control over the people. They change the history, they change the religion in order to control the people. So this is something that you always have to keep in mind when you're talking about ancient civilizations. We don't know. We know very little of actually what happened. We assume a lot when it comes to what happened because we were not there. The records that they have are records by a biased person who wrote about it because of whichever leader was writing about it. So this is something we always have to keep in mind. So when it comes to David, Solomon, and Saul, with Saul being the first, we also have to understand that just because there's not that much documentation on it does not mean that didn't actually happen. It just means that there's less documentation about it, especially with new rulers that came in and destroyed all those things from before. Now, remember, again, I'm looking from the curriculum. It's a great book. You got to read it. Whether you want to learn more about the Bible or totally secular. This is taken from a point of view of secular, but using the Bible as a historical document based on archaeological findings. So that's a lot. That's a big mouthful, but it should give you everything you need in order to figure out the life and the history of Israel. So again, going back to the curriculum, I'm going to change the volume, hopefully get a little bit more volume out of this. There we go. Okay, so going back, which kingdoms actually took over Israel? Okay, so you know that we're going to talk about this later on, but you have the lost 10 tribes. The 10 tribes were up in northern Israel, or the land Canaan, and you had the kingdom of Judah, which was 2 tribes, 3 if you count the 2 halves. So you have everyone in the northern land were taken by the Syrians. The Syrians came in, didn't wipe them out, didn't kill them all. They took them and they separated them all over the Syrian Empire. They redistributed everyone. Okay, so 10 tribes now lost among other people. Then you had something else happen. Who took over from the Syrians? Oh, wait a second. The Syrians took over one side. The Babylonians took over the kingdom of Judah. By the time the Babylonians came in there was no kingdom of Israel anymore. It was wiped out by the Syrians. And the people redistributed all over the place. Very little was actually in that area. But the kingdom of Judah was still powerful. Babylon came in and took over that land. So we're going to be talking about this later on. I'm going to give you some substance here. So Assyria, Babylon. Who took over the Babylonians? The Persians. So Persia controlled it for a while with the help of the Israelites. So they actually put the Israelites in charge of it, but they basically owned the kingdom of Judah when they took over Babylon and that empire. Then you had, after the Persians, you had the Greeks. The Greeks were there. You had regional territory, or people grabbing territories. And then finally the Romans. But that didn't end there. Then you had the Islam. So when Islam came over, one of the big things that they had to do was actually destroy a lot of the records. They wanted to destroy a lot of the history of the Jews because, again, Ishmael, son of Abraham, Isaac, son of Abraham, both competing groups, still competing groups. This is why the study of Israel is essential. You learning about Israel is essential for your understanding of ancient history, because it was from there that the 2 great societies came from. Well, 3. Jews, Muslims. From the Jews, Christians. From the Christians, most of Europe and, well, if you count Russia as Europe, then Europe, Russia included, and parts of Africa. Muslims came in, and they have a lot of control over parts of Asia, going down to much of Africa. So this is a big part. If you want to learn about the distinguishing rivalries between the 2, and I was actually going to hold off until later on to do Arab group, an Arab curriculum, but I think maybe I should do that a little bit sooner than I was planning on doing it. Maybe I'll do the Chinese and the Arabs. No, because the Chinese and the Indus Valley are very important. Indus and India, those are very important. So we're going to do that, and then we're going to come back to the Arabs. But these are all essential to understand the making of the world. So this is why every group that came into Israel destroyed the records and try to put in their own history and religion. Not just Israel. Egypt, same thing happened. Every time a new pharaoh came in that did not like the other one, so a new dynasty, they would destroy the records, come back with new stuff. Aztecs, Mayas, Incas, same exact thing. Everyone did it because they knew that's how you controlled history. That's how you controlled people. You change the history and you change religion. Okay, so going forward, let's talk about Saul. So Saul was someone that was a normal person. So Saul was actually from the, let's see, I think he was from Benjamin. No. Saul was, oh crud. Saul was part of what tribe? I was right. Benjamin. Okay. So the tribe of Benjamin. Benjamin, one of the tribes. The prophet Samuel. Again, this is according to the Bible, and not saying that the Bible, this is, again, secular point of view, the story is Samuel basically picks the first king. Now, why a king? So before this point, they had leaders, but they did not have a king. Why did the people demand a king? Okay, so the Israelites were very spread out. There was, again, 12 tribes, 13 if you count the two halves. 13 tribes, all saying, hey, we want someone to lead all of us. Because this person's doing this, and this person's doing that, and this person's doing that, and we don't know how to get together in order to fight a war to protect our land from others. So Samuel, the prophet at the time, said, okay, I'm going to go find someone, not telling the people this, but I'm going to go find someone, and I'm going to anoint them to be king of Israel. So Saul was anointed as a youth. Then no one talks about it. He's like silent. He's privately anointed by Samuel. And shortly after, Samuel is then publicly chosen as king. So let's take the Samuel out. Saul is appointed by the people to become king. Why? He was actually a military hero. So he had a military victory, rescuing the city of Gebeth and Galilee from the Ammonites. So interesting enough, if you remember, the Galileans, those that were from a rival city, rival people, made this truce with Jacob. I think it was Jacob. Made this truce where they would not be attacked. They would not attack the Israelites. The Israelites would not attack them. Truce between the two. And they were done. It was done under false pretenses because the people that were teaming up with the Israelites, they basically said, hey, we're people from far off lands. We're not going to ever attack you, or we have no need for that, but we want to create this relationship with you. And so the people of Israel made a covenant with them, a agreement through God that they would never attack them. Well, then it came out that, oh, wait a second, those are liars. And even though they lied, they were still held to their oath to keep them safe. So when Saul came in and stopped the Amorites from taking over those cities, he was basically keeping to that covenant. And so he was found as the successor. So Saul was established his authority, began to unify Israel, create the army to confront the Philistines' threat. Now, interesting enough, I got in a discussion with one of our own historians. He said, hey, you know what? The Philistines were not actually at the time of Israel. So I don't know how you want to do this. And I said, okay, so do you mean Israel coming out of Egypt early or Israel coming out late? He's like, wait, what? I was like, well, if you go by them coming out early, when some historians say they came out of Egypt, then yeah, you're right. The Philistines were not there. They were people of the water, and they came in and established themselves around the same time. So they were not there before Israel. But if you think of Ramses II, then yes, they're right on time to be able to compete against the other rival who was just growing strength in Canaan. So Philistines were new to Canaan. Israelites were new to Canaan. They both conquered land, and then they wanted to conquer each other. Well, yeah, according to the writings that we have, the Philistines wanted to conquer the Israelites, and the Israelites wanted to defend against the Philistines. Was there a little bit of both? Probably. Okay. Now, Saul put together this campaign, was able to keep them off. But what happened? Okay, so Saul started to do things that went against the rules that God had set for them through their prophet. So the prophet said, these are the ways to do things. Saul said, that's great. And then some of the time he actually went a different direction and did it himself. And so he was rejected by God. Basically said, I'm not going to protect you if you're not going to follow the rules that I've asked you to stay. So Saul fails to complete destroying the Amalekites. So they were commanded by God to destroy everything and everything, everyone and everything. Saul actually rejected that and took some things back he wasn't supposed to. So Samuel declared, well, God has rejected you as king, and secretly anointed David from another territory, another tribe. This tribe was the tribe of, I'm trying to look through my notes. Oh, it's on the tip of my tongue. I'm thinking it's Ephraim. Is it Ephraim? Okay, so this one I was wrong. It was the tribe of Judah. So another tribe being another leader from another tribe being anointed. Now, here's two things that you have to wonder about. Okay, so Saul would be offended. I'm king. Jonathan's my son. He should be king. That's it. No question. But then you also have the tribe itself saying, wait a second, our tribe is in high standing because our king came from our tribe. You can't anoint some other tribe and make him king. So Samuel knew that this was happening, but was told to do it anyways, or did it anyways. So he anoints David to become king. So David becomes king. Okay, so David becomes king and doesn't actually become king right away. Again, he has to be appointed by the people, and Saul is still the king. So, funny enough, David actually becomes very good friends with who? Jonathan, Saul's son. So, at this time also, you have Goliath that comes up. So just before this, before David finds out about, before Saul finds out that David was anointed, according to the Bible, no one can actually prove that this happened, but David, a young shepherd, who gained favor with Saul, at this point, again, Saul doesn't know, takes out Goliath. Goliath falls from being hit by a rock from a sling from David's sling. Hey, so Saul begins to persecute David. Why? Because David is getting a lot of favor from the people. The people really like him, killing off Goliath, and then being a hero to all over the people, all over the place. Jonathan becomes friends with David. Saul does not like any of this. So the Philistines launch a major assault against Israel. This is at the Battle of Mount Gilboa. Saul's army is defeated, and his sons, including Jonathan and Saul, are killed, hung up on a wall. So Saul's death, Saul actually falls by his own sword to avoid capture by the Philistines, and his body and those of his sons are placed on the wall. And this is in the city that he had saved, Gebeth and Galeed. So, let's see. No. They were retrieved by the men of those cities and given a proper burial. So, at this point, Saul is now dead. And David is right on the path to become king. So, funny enough, before Saul dies, or before Saul turns against David, Saul's actually the harpist for Saul's court. And that's how he actually become friends with Jonathan. And that's where the jealousy basically comes up. David has been a fugitive since like 1010 BC or so. And again, depending on where you place leaving Egypt. But he becomes friends, and David starts persecuting him around this time. David then, around 1010 BC, again, don't know exactly when time, King Saul's death happens, and David is anointed king by the people. Now, everyone is still united. Everyone is still friendly. Everything's going great. So, at this point, now, there's a little disruption that I did not just say, because I just said there's peace. Northern lands, it's throughout in the same time. Ish-bosh-heth, Saul's last, I think, surviving son, is declared king over the northern tribes of Israel. leading to a period of civil war when they're actually attacking each other. So David becomes king over all Israel after Ishbosheth is assassinated. David is anointed king. He's assassinated. Really? Yep. So in this time, Ishbosheth is assassinated, and David takes the throne. Who he's assassinated by? No one knows. Bible doesn't say it. No other records say it. It's actually really hard to find any records about this time, so we don't exactly know. So at this point, David captures Jerusalem from the Jebusites. So they actually made that their capital after taking it from the Israelites, and now it actually becomes part of all of Israel again. So they basically join. The northern tribes have come back. Southern tribes have welcomed them in. There is now peace. Now, David does a lot of military campaigns. While doing that, and he has the Ark of the Covenant. The Ark of the Covenant is brought into Jerusalem and solidifies the status and the religion, political center of Israel being Jerusalem. Now, this is around 997 BC. Now, here's where his challenges start. Just like Saul fell, David will also fall. During this time, he's up on his roof. He's looking upon his kingdom. He's contemplating, whatever. And he sees someone by the name of Bathsheba, actually bathing on the roof, where most people wouldn't be able to see. Well, he sees her. He starts lusting after her. He sends her husband off to war. She's married. Well, he dies because he's in the front lines of war. And this man is very loyal to David. And David basically gets him killed. Now, David does repent of it, but his family basically faces turmoil the rest of his life. So David's son, Amnon, assaults half-sister Tamar, leading to another murder. And then other sons do other things, and David does other things, and it's just like one thing leads to another. It is a song, but it just shows these things happen because we go off on the wrong path. Again, another thing, we talked about this yesterday. The reason why we learn about history is because we repeat the same mistakes over and over again. Yeah. Stay moral in the things that you do. You won't have to worry about a lot of these things that happen. So, Absalom later rebels against David, his own son, and briefly seizes Jerusalem. So, he's defeated and killed during this battle, during this rebellion. So, David's finding a lot of issues. Now, during this time, David has a child with his new wife. So, even though David's health is declining, he focuses on preparing his new son with Bathsheba. So not his sons from before. Bathsheba and David have a baby named Solomon. And from this point, he's basically preparing Solomon to take over his throne. David is dying. He knows he's dying. He's getting old. He's done. And he also knows that he's done all these different things that are wrong. So he starts trying to teach Solomon to reign in wisdom, reign in mercy, reign in righteousness. Yeah, that's what the Bible is saying. So David declares Solomon his successor and gives him instructions on how to follow God and to govern wisely. David dies somewhere around 970 BC. So at this point, there's now a new king. Now this new king is also from the tribe of Judah. Now remember, in the end, there will be the 10 tribes and the kingdom of Judah. The kingdom of Israel, the kingdom of Judah. Solomon, David, both come from Judah. Okay, so now let's talk about Solomon. Now, Solomon is the one that you actually would hear from in history books. So Solomon, wise king. Not just wise king, he worked with everyone. He tried to appease everyone. but trying to do things within the rules that his father gave him and that he knows to be in his religion, in his faith. So Solomon's declared king 970 BC, around the time that David dies. Actually, still before he dies. So King David is still alive when Solomon is made king. So Solomon decides, hey, if I'm going to really establish a people in this land for their God, then I need to start doing things that will solidify this, unify our people, and make us a well-established kingdom in the area. So, and archaeologically, you can actually find a lot of these things that came from other lands in this land. So he boosted up trade. Why did he boost up trade? Because a lot of things that he wanted were from other countries. So he made friends with all these kingdoms all over the place, and they brought in new goods to Israel. Again, this unified group that is now considered Israel. So Solomon asked God for wisdom as the one gift. So God gives him wisdom. In that wisdom, he constructs a temple for God. This is Solomon's temple. This still stands. The temple itself does not stand today, but its ruins are still there today. Now, interesting enough, there's a large fight over that land. Who lays claim to it? Well, who are the last conquerors that came in? Well, the last conquerors that really came in to the land were the Muslims. So they put the temple on the rock. So according to them, they put it on Solomon's temple, but it's actually the farthest side of Solomon's temple. They put their mosque there, their temple there. Now, there's the Wailing Wall, which is one of the walls of King Solomon's temple. That's where the Jews can go, but they cannot go into the area that's been set apart by the Muslims. So this is just one portion of a very large area that makes up the Solomon's temple. But these are the existing walls of it, which is why they probably did that. So when it's taken over by Babylon, and I'm going a little forward, when it's taken over by Babylon, it's not touched. It's ransacked a little bit, but the structure's still there. It's when the Jews rebel against Babylon that the Babylonian king says, oh yeah, you're going to do this? Wham! Takes it all down. He destroys the whole temple to stop the rebellion. To show the power of Babylon, this temple will be knocked down. But before that happens, Solomon builds it based on what he's told he's supposed to do when it comes to creating this structure. So it has certain parameters that it has to live by. So he designs it. He ornates it. Gold and everything else. So with all that, Solomon creates this great kingdom that is Israel. The problem that happens, though, is the fact that what happens when a king dies? A king dies, somebody else comes in control. That will be the fall of Israel. But I'm not going to talk to you about that until Thursday. Until Thursday. No, sorry, until next Monday. We're going to finish up. We got 1 week left. I'm compiling the last 2 weeks into 1 week because we had an extra week in the curriculum. I'm compiling into 1 week in our podcast because we would need to finish it because we're actually a week behind now. So we're trying to catch up. That's why I had to do all 3 kings. And next we'll be doing basically the fall of Israel. And there's going to be a sad fall, but we're going to see how they fell apart and then how the other kingdoms were able to take over them. And we're not going to go over how they come back. We might mention it, but we don't have a part in that because that's not ancient Israel. We're just doing ancient Israel. But we'll go over the conquerors and how it finally comes back to them. I will put that in there. Wasn't planning to, but for you, I will. Anyways, thank you so much for joining us on this Adventure Box podcast on New Year's week or afterwards. Thank you so much. We will talk to you soon. Take care. Bye-bye. have any comments or questions, add them to the comments below. Otherwise, we'll see you tomorrow actually. Take care. Bye.